Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this webinar hosted by Proudly South African, the Pivot Your Business strategies to create new income streams. Welcome to the webinar this morning. My name is Happy Ngidi. I am the Chief Marketing Officer, Proudly South African. But today I wear two hats. I'm also your program director. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Great to have everybody on board this morning. I just want to welcome all our speakers. Thank you so much for hitting our call and showing up this morning to have this also important discussion around how to pivot your business. And welcome to all the attendees, all the delegates. Thank you for making time to join us this morning and to hear what we want to share with you. And welcome to our stakeholders that are online, as well as some of our members who are online as well this morning. So today's discussion really is informed by the reality that we find ourselves in as a country, as the world, as a people, as South Africans, which is COVID-19, which has really, for a lack of a better word, forced us as businesses to pause and to rethink the way in which we conduct business, to pause and to redefine our businesses, to rethink our strategies and our approach as we take on our day-to-day operations in our respective businesses. And who knows, maybe this is the way to go, even beyond COVID-19. Maybe this is exactly what many businesses have been looking for in hindsight for the longest time, and this could just be it. But then again, on the flip side, this could just be temporary, where at some point we'll go back to life as we know it and conduct business the same way we used to in the past. This is really about changing direction of your business when you suddenly realize that your products or your services are not meeting the needs of your market currently for whatever reason, but in the context of the unprecedented times that we find ourselves in, we are making reference particularly to what COVID has done in the past 11, 12 months or so. Today's discussion also speaks to when you as a business decides that letting your business go under is not an option, where you wanting to be proactive to avoid job losses, to avoid retrenchments, to avoid all of that, which is where we come in as Proudly South African. We are about job creation. We are about sustaining the jobs that we do currently have. We are about trying to ensure that factories and businesses and products and services continue to thrive, in the current state, as difficult as it may be. So we are about to find out from all our experts and speakers that we've invited to be part of this discussion today. We are about to find out how to navigate your business, how to pivot your business, and how to, in an effort to survive. With that said, it now gives me great pleasure to introduce all our speakers today. So we do have the CEO of Proudly South African, Mr. Eustace Mashimbie, who will take us through, some background in terms of what we are wanting to achieve as Proudly South African and as the country's Buy Local campaign. And then we do have Ms. Evelyn Krafyan. I'm hoping I did not butcher your surname, and if I did, I apologize. But she is head of customer insights and experience at Yoko. And we also have Mr. Sean Rosenstein, who's MD for CGI Creative Graphics International, Regional Vice Chairman for NACAM in the Western Cape region. We, last but not least, we have Mr. Ronnie Kruger, and he is Group CEO, Ocasio Medical and Healthcare Group. Welcome, everybody. We really, really, truly appreciate the fact that you made time to join us this morning. Without further ado, Mr. Eustace Mashimbie, it gives me great pleasure to ask you to take center stage, so to speak, for your presentation. Welcome. Thank you so much.
Okay, good morning. Thank you, Program Director, for the opportunity. Thank you to everyone who's on the call, our speakers and panelists who've made time to join us this morning. As introduced, my name is Eustace Mashimbie, and I'm from Proudly South African. I'm going to take you through some slides. I have quite a lot of slides, but I'll try to only focus on the ones that are relevant, especially to the conversation that we're having today, so that I allow other speakers to come on, and so that we, in line with the program, can still give you time to pose some questions to our expert panelists this morning. So what informs the existence of a buy local campaign is the fact that the country battles three main challenges: inequality, unemployment, and poverty. We all know someone who's unemployed, and we all know how difficult it gets for some households to be able to put food on their table and to take their kids to school and for them to access just basic amenities. And I think the gap between the have and those who don't have in the country continues to grow. And I think the two shoes on the screen gives you a good sense of the widening gap. We are considered as one of the most unequal societies in the world. And it all boils down to the fact that a lot of our people can't fend for themselves and they don't have the income required. And so we continue to see a lot of countries implementing measures to help strengthen their own economies, to help boost whatever manufacturing capacity they have, because manufacturing has the ability to absorb many people into jobs. And so this buying local phenomenon is a global one. It's not unique to South Africa. And there are countries like Australia that have a campaign called the Australian Made, and that is what Proudly South African was initially modeled around when it was launched back in 2001, exactly 20 years ago. We have countries like the US who have legislation in place for their buy local campaigns. We have the UK, they have a campaign called Keep It Local UK. Countries like the Philippines have buy local, go local. So it's a global phenomenon, tried and tested all over the world. And even on the African continent, we are seeing the advent of buy local campaigns. And we have been approached as Proudly South African by a lot of countries, and I've listed some of those that we have assisted to either explore setting up buy local campaigns or to really bring them to life. Countries like Zambia, Swaziland, Malawi, Zimbabwe, Mauritius, and Tunisia. And so my case study for this morning, in the interest of time, is on the US. So it's one of the most developed economies. They believe so much in buying local and in this phenomenon of driving localization and local procurement, such that they set up and put in place, in fact, and enacted legislation as far back as 1933. They put in place what was called the Buy American Act, followed it up in 1982 with the Buy America Act, and issued improvements to that act in 2017. And at some stage when the trade wars between China and the US were happening, we thought it was mostly a Trump issue. But you can see that even President Biden, when he came on board, within the first week of coming on board, he signed executive orders giving effect to the implementation of the provisions of localization and buying local by the US's federal government. And when he addressed the joint houses, both Senate and Congress in April 2021, in fact, it's even available on the net, where he spoke quite passionately about the need for the US to drive localization. The reason why there are these trade wars between China and the US is because the US believes strongly that if they are able to produce any product that they consume as a country, there is no need for them to bring it in from China or anywhere else. They will only allow products to come in where they know they don't have the capacity, because it takes away their ability to create jobs for their citizens. And if you look at the numbers in the US before COVID, the unemployment rate was as low as 3.6% back in May 2019. And during this period where they had this trade wars, they tightened up on what comes into their country, and as a result, the graph kept going down. As you can see on the screen, the unemployment rate kept dropping, obviously affected by COVID, but that's why he's now putting in place those executive orders and all those provisions that Americans must consume that which is made in America. And there's a population estimated at 329 million people living in that country, and unemployment of only 5.9 million people. So it's quite interesting how these countries that drive manufacturing and drive the consumption of products that they make locally are able to keep their levels of unemployment very low. Look at China, with a population estimated at 1.4 billion rands. Before COVID, they only had an unemployment rate of 3.6%. But look at South Africa, with a population of 59 million people at the end of December 2020, we had 32.5% unemployment in the country. And that is just those who are continuously looking for jobs. If you factor in those who are discouraged, if you add the 3.9 million of those people who are discouraged and have stopped looking for employment, and you add those to the 7.2 million people who are actively looking for employment but cannot get it, you see that we have more than 11 million of our people who are eligible to work who are out of jobs. And this is out of a population of 59 million. So the situation is quite dire in South Africa. And so we have to start thinking differently and looking at a lot of how we do things completely different. And one of the things that we advocate for is buying local. I mean, look at an industry such as furniture. So I'll take you quickly through two industries. The first one is furniture. Furniture industry used to have about 3,500 factories producing all kinds of furniture items in the country, dropped to 1,100 in 2020. So we've lost in excess of 2,000 factories in the country that make furniture. What does it mean? It means those people who are employed in those companies have all lost their jobs. Those people who had set up those companies, had invested in those companies, have lost now all that infrastructure and the capital that they invested. And in most instances, when we have lost that manufacturing capability or that infrastructure, it's difficult to get it back onto on any sort of production. In terms of number of people who are employed in that industry directly, you had about 50,000 people employed directly in that industry. And we are now left with only 20,000, just over 20,000 people employed directly in that industry. So that about 30,000 jobs were lost directly in that industry. And we know that in the context of our country, it simply means that there are many more people who are affected by this. The black tax phenomenon, the multiplier effect tells us that there's dependence on one source of income from one person in a household that feeds 6, 7 other people. And so don't look at it in the context of just the 30,000 jobs that were lost, but think about the indirect jobs, those who are not necessarily employed in those companies, but benefit from those employment opportunities. We also have to account for the indirect jobs that are part of the value chain. So if you think of this industry, furniture industry, we used to have a manufacturing industry that also used to feed off from other industries within the borders of South Africa, and not a lot of the raw materials that are used by this industry were imported. And so every time we buy imported items, we take away the ability of all of these industries to stay operational and to keep the jobs that they have. So if you think of a furniture item, there's raw materials that come from the plastic industry in the form of synthetic fibers. There's natural fibers, hides, and skins that come from the agricultural industry. There's paints and adhesives that come from the chemical industry. The metal industry provides metal parts. And so as a result, all of these industries are affected. I mean, the textiles and leather industry feed off what they convert from this other industries, such as agricultural industry, the plastics industry, and convert those items into that which the manufacturers of furniture can use to produce their final items. So jobs are lost across the whole value chain. It's not just the 30,000 jobs that I spoke about that are lost every time we buy imported items, or every time a factory closes down because the orders are not flowing to it. So the next time you buy for your business or for your household, I know that we're predominantly talking to business people today, think about the impact on the industry from which the product comes from, but also those industries that are part of that whole value chain. And so another example that you can look at is the clothing, textile, footwear, and leather industry. That used to have about 1,600 factories producing all of those items, reduced to about 900 factories. And the reason for that decline is what you see on the right-hand side of your screen, which is 480% increase in imports, but the bigger increase is 730% increase in imports from China. In terms of people employed in that industry, we used to have about 200,000 people employed directly by clothing, textile, footwear, and leather manufacturers in the country. That dropped to 90,000 factories. And so all those direct jobs have been lost, but think of the value chain, all these other indirect jobs that were lost as a result of the multiply effect. And that's why there's a need for a buy local campaign. So I'll quickly take you through what Proudly South African is about. The mandate of Proudly South African is aimed at making sure that we get all of those who make purchasing decisions and who buy any form of product or service at any point in their life to buy locally made products, to choose a locally made product. And so we focus on buying that happens in the public sector. We focus on buying that happens in the private sector. We educate consumers on the economic importance of buying local, on the impact on their lives and their livelihoods of choosing to buy locally made products. But most importantly, when engaging with all these three sectors of our society, we have to ensure that it's easy for them to access those locally made products and services. So we promote the accessibility of locally made products and services. Those who want to heed our call and buy locally made products need to know where to find them. And that is the role of Proudly South African. If you think of a typical retail value chain where a manufacturer makes a product, in order for them to get the product to the end user, someone has to take it to them. And the platforms created by those retailers are quite important in this value chain, in that the retailers will only have on their shelves products that they know consumers want. And so the role of Proudly South African is to stimulate demand for locally made products, ensure that when consumers, whether they're ordinary consumers or the private sector consumers, or even public sector consumers, demand locally made products every time that they want to buy. So as consumers demand those products, it strengthens the case for retailers to continue to buy their products from local manufacturers because they know that their consumers will buy it. It is no use for retailers to put products on their shelves if consumers will not buy it. They will only put those that are demanded by consumers on their shelves. And so whether it's an online retail platform, whether it's a physical retail platform, whether it's a B2B platform, what is important is that the end user continues to demand locally made products so that the retailers continue to place orders with manufacturers. If consumers demand products from China, it makes sense for a retailer to go the product from China that consumers demand. And so the role of Proudly South African is to ensure that we drive up a demand for locally made products. So how do consumers know that products are locally made? We typically ask consumers to look out for the Proudly SA logo, to look out for the country of origin label on the product, which tells them where the product comes from. If it says made in South Africa, you know it's made here. If it says product of South Africa, manufactured in South Africa, you know that the product was made within the borders of South Africa, and so jobs are created throughout that value chain. So who can become a member of Proudly South African? Any company that can tick off these 4 boxes, that can demonstrate that their product is of a high quality, it's made within the borders of South Africa, utilizing local content and raw materials and components required to make that product are sourced locally. Because if you look at the Proudly SA logo, instantly when you look at the full color logo, you can see that it has the colors of the flag of the Republic of South Africa, which tells you that the product is locally made and that jobs are created in the making of that product. And the tick tells you that the product is of a high quality and conforms to the standards prescribed in that industry. The reason why the local content is quite important is that we advocate for products to be made in South Africa. So even in instances where the raw materials can be sourced and found in South Africa, we advocate for the transformation of those raw materials into the final product to happen within the borders of South Africa so that the value chain is impacted on. And companies that affiliate with us have to treat their workers fairly and conform to sound environmental practices. There's perception out there that membership is expensive. It's not. It's 500 rands for companies with turnover of 5 million rands. Turnover up to 5 million rands. It's between 5 million and 10 million, the turnover, the membership fee is 1,000 rands per annum. And the most that any company that wants to affiliate with us will ever pay is 100,000 rands, and that is for companies with turnover of 100 million rands and above. And so there are discounts applicable for multi-year membership. So we want to really dispel that notion that membership of Policy African is expensive. It's not. I think it's an investment worth making. The biggest benefit is the use of the logo on your products, but then we have access to market programs in the private sector and the public sector and with consumers, and I'm going to quickly focus on that. When it comes to the public sector has legislation that says if they buy any of these 27 items that you see on the screen, they have to buy them locally. If you go to the DTI website and you look for the designated items page, you will find all these items. So if you supply any of these items, and my example today will be furniture, if you supply furniture and you make furniture locally, if government buys office furniture, they have to buy from you and your peers that make your furniture locally. And so what we do in that space is we look out for all these designated items that government has designated for local procurement. We look out for the tenders that they issue for those items. We track the tenders to ensure that when the tenders come out, they have the necessary regulation that says they will only buy locally made products. We identify manufacturers in our books that we send the tenders to so that they can apply for the tenders if they've missed it when it came out. We help government correct the tenders where they come out and they don't have those provisions that will exclude imported products from being supplied back to government. And what you end up with is a response from local manufacturers as bidders, and government then buys locally made products. We also roll out public sector forums where we educate government officials about these regulations and the importance of them complying with the legislation. When it comes to the private sector, we go out into the private sector and we seek localization commitments. There is no legislation that forces the private sector to buy local, but we appeal to their sense of patriotism. And we ask them to ring-fence items that they are going to buy locally. So let's use my furniture example. We go to the banks and the independent schools and the private schools, and we ask them to buy locally made furniture, including the private hospitals. And once they give us that commitment, we then identify companies in our books that are suitable to respond to these procurement opportunities. Those corporates then list themselves on a portal called MAP, where the companies are also listed. And so as a corporate buyer, it's easy for you to find these companies that you can buy from. What this does is that it enables the private sector to buy local every time they've ring-fenced an item. So if you use my example of banks, they are able to then buy furniture locally. Those are just some of the examples of the work we've done in the private sector. We've gotten the banks to consider buying locally made furniture. We've gotten the retailers to increase their levels of local content on their shelves. We've gotten manufacturers to increase their use of raw materials. For example, now we're sitting with Coca-Cola Beverages that is committed to taking up to using 80%, ensuring that 80% of the sugar they use in their products is locally sourced. We're talking to people like the franchises to get them to buy from SMEs and those who make their products locally. And so in order to make sure that all these sectors of society find it easy to find the products that they're looking for, we have even developed portals. During this COVID period, we knew that as the economy opened up, there would be a need for people to buy cloth, face masks, hand sanitizers, detergents and disinfectants, face shields and medical PPE. And so we created portals on the Proudly SA website that enables all those who want to find local producers to buy from to go onto the Proudly SA website, go to the COVID-19 portal page and find the products that they're looking for, because that way you are able to help companies access those procurement opportunities. Because when COVID started, a lot of the money left the country. As a country, we did not have sufficient capacity to respond to the need that was there. And so what we have done through these portals is enabled every single person who wants to buy local to find these items. And in fact, linked to the conversation we're having today, some companies have pivoted. I mean, Ocasio will come and talk to you, Ronnie from Ocasio will talk to you about what they have done in this COVID space to try and make sure that they ensure that the money that is being spent goes towards products that are made locally, but also give you a sense of how many jobs they were able to sustain just by repurposing their business, pivoting, if you use the word that is now being used, pivoting their business to respond to the need, but also to ensure that those jobs are not lost, because every time the money left the country and went to China for those products, jobs were also exported, and we supported the economy of China. And so we have also done that in the furniture space. We've created a portal that looks at furniture. And so if you're a furniture supplier, you could go and list your products on there. And those who want to buy office furniture, beds and mattresses, lounge, kitchenware, knows where to find those suppliers. And that's how the products are displayed on the portal. And all of that is just a model of what we can do for any industry where there's a need for us to create a space where procurement heads and consumers can go to find products. So as I conclude, I'm going to focus on consumers, where we have an online store that showcases locally made products. It gives consumers an opportunity to go to a platform where they know that every single product on that platform is locally made. And so it rivals the big online stores. The advent of buying and shopping on online platforms is quite big. And so we had to find a platform that will help us with this. We have also, before COVID, we had a strategy that focused on us getting to every single consumer, and we did it through mall activations, festival activations, consumer advertising, universities. We worked with the unions, with sporting events, we had consumer activations. And so all of that was done to drive consumers towards locally made products. And we also, at different times of the year, roll out different campaigns. And so we have campaigns that are specific to industries like the clothing, textile, and footwear, leather industry, poultry industry, the hospitality industry. So where we have presence in terms of member companies that we have vetted that are affiliated with us, we do roll out campaigns to ensure that consumers understand that they need to buy local. During the festive season, we roll out campaigns. When schools are about to open, we roll out back to school campaigns. And we also have, campaigns that were rolled out during Black Friday because a lot of buying happens during that time. As I conclude, Program Director, I want to just take the audience through our current campaign, Game Time, which we rolled out in August last year. We launched it in August, and we had the campaign running between August and sort of end of December or thereabout. And the focus of the campaign was to make sure that consumers understand that the economy of South Africa was already in trouble even before the hard lockdown, and that the hard lockdown was seen as an opportunity for us to pause and reflect, and that as the economy opened up, we needed to do things different. And that's why we're saying it's game time. It's the analogy of a sporting game where if in the first half you're not doing well, during halftime you regroup, and in the second half you do better. And that's why we're saying it's game time, South Africa. It's time for you to take back the economy that you have now over the years, relinquished to the foreign economies by buying their products on a continuous basis. It's time to support our economies, grow the jobs that are so much needed, retain the jobs that we have by choosing to buy locally made products. So I'll play the ad, and then that will be my presentation.
The second half is about to begin. We need to change the scoreboard. It's time for all of us to pause and rethink the game plan in order to save the future. I call on all of us to be game changers, because greatness isn't reserved only for some people. By buying local, we're choosing to create jobs and sustain the ones we have. Time and time again, South Africans have taken destiny into their own hands, creating products that the rest of the world wanted to buy. See, the world remembers about us what we sometimes forget, but it's time for change. Let's all buy local. It's game time. Zanzi.
Local is lekker.
Your everyday decisions shape our future.
Thank you, Program Director. I think the call to action is quite clear. Buy local to create jobs, because the second half is in your hands, South Africa. If anyone is interested in taking up membership of Proudly South African or engaging with us in any way, write to us, info@proudlysa.co.za, and our team will be there to help you. Thank you very much, Program Director. Appreciate the platform.
Thank you so much, Eustace, much appreciated. I know that you have to jump off the call to take up another commitment you have, but I just want to reassure our attendees online that should they have any questions and comments, or given what you've shared with us, they're most welcome to put those down on the chat box, and the Proudly South African team will take care of that in your absence, and just make sure that we engage our audience as much as possible. Thank you so much for the insight. We really appreciate that. Just to quickly make a comment regarding the commercial that you've just shared with us, that so for the longest time, as you can see, that's what we've been saying as Proudly South African. We've been asking South Africans to pause, to rethink, to regroup, to re-strategize, to adjust, whichever word you want to use. I mean, the commercial says, or Dr. John Kani says in the commercial, that it's game time. Mzansi, he says that it's halftime, South Africa, and we need to change the scoreboard. And the long and short of it is that as a business, you can't keep doing the same thing over and over again, even under difficult circumstances, and hoping to get the same results. So our discussion today and our topic today couldn't be more, relevant and significant and important. It speaks exactly to what that commercial says, which is something that we, thought about, really zoomed into last year as we were navigating, the unprecedented times that we found ourselves in. Thank you so much, Eustace, once again. Somebody says, Celeste says that can we use this video on our websites? Of course, with the greatest of pleasure, we will share that with you. And yes, Bonginkosi, we can share the presentation with you after the discussion today. We'll make proper arrangements. So without further ado, it gives me great pleasure now to welcome our next speaker on to the session today, to take us through what they have done as a business, how they've navigated these current times, and how they're holding up, and or what the do's and don'ts are, how to go about it, what the advice is, what is workable, what is not working, all of that. Evelyn, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We greatly appreciate your time. Please go ahead. The platform is yours. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Very happy to be here. I'll give a quick introduction of where I'm from and what I do. And one of the big reasons I assume that Proudly South Africa asked me to share with you today is that we created a small business pivot guide beginning last year to use all the knowledge that we had to try and help our consumers who are small businesses in South Africa. But I'll quickly share my screen. So I went a bit rogue, and rather than making a nice presentation, I decided to just show you the information that's out there. So, I'll quickly go to my LinkedIn to show what I've been doing and where I'm from, and what I do at Yoco. And then I want to share with you some things around, Yoco itself, what we offer, but also, like I said, the small business pivot guide. So I'll share my screen. Cool, there we are. I just want to say, as I'm speaking, feel free to drop any questions into the chat. I have it open next to me. If you want to ask anything on the way, feel free to do that. It's a bit weird doing these things over Zoom, even though we've done it for over a year. It's still a bit of a thing. Anyway, my name is Evelien Griffioen. It's very okay to butcher my name. It's very Dutch, and there's too many letters in there that don't make sense behind them. So I am actually from the Netherlands. That's where the name comes from as well. And I'm currently at Yoco, but where I started was studying industrial design engineering, which is product design, mass-produced product design. You know, from there, I kind of got very interested in human behavior and how do people use products, but also, you know, going back to what do people actually need and how do we figure out what they need, because very often you can't just ask people, what do you need, you know, but rather look at how are people doing things, what are they trying to achieve, and where are people kind of, you know, getting stuck or running into barriers to be able to do that. So I studied industrial design engineering, and I did a master's in strategic product design, all in the Netherlands at the Delft University of Technology. And then I did some fun freelancing and ended up in Barcelona, where I basically, it was a small boutique innovation consultancy agency that ran all over the world, doing field work meaning that we went into people's homes, having conversations with them, and we were helping large businesses trying to figure out, you know, what's changing in society. They would either see that products not growing as fast, or their revenues not growing as fast, or their ideas not hitting the spot, and they would see things changing in society but not knowing how to respond to them. So we helped by going out, trying to understand what was happening, trying to figure out, you know, where are the opportunity areas here, and where are the opportunity areas here specifically for this company. So I did that for a couple of years, and then eventually I ended up, in South Africa, and working with Yoco. And I just want to quickly show the Yoco website, in case you don't know Yoco, although I think we're pretty out there. If you've seen any blue card machines, or black with a blue rim, or people connecting a card machine to their phone, or things like that, then that's probably Yoco. So Yoco is about helping people with accepting card payments and creating access to that. So we know that there's lots of small businesses that haven't really had access to you know, card payments, taking card payments. Part of it is because the banks haven't really seen it as a viable market, and their model doesn't really work for small businesses when it comes to that. But also the amount of like paperwork. Very often it's renting a machine, so you have to pay, you know, a monthly fee, and you know that obviously creates barriers and risk for a small business or a starting business. So these are the card machines that you might have seen around. There's the little one that connects with the phone, and then there's the one that's the standalone Yoco Neo. And when we went through COVID last year, we obviously had to respond as well. And one of the things we responded with was accepting card payments online. So being able to take card payments from a distance. So for example, someone who sells on Instagram and then sends you know, something that they made to their customer, and being able to send them a link so that they can then open a payment page and put in their card card details to pay. So not having to build a whole website or do anything else, but really simply sign up and just start selling and taking payments. We do also have you know, the ability to take card payments online. We also started that, but I'll tell you a little bit later how quickly we ran from just card payments in the in-person space to having to react to a situation where, you know, nobody was going out of the house anymore. So what happens then? So one of the things we did, and so this is something that my colleagues created. It's the Small Business Turnover Index. So last year when COVID hit, obviously, because the way that our business model works, you don't pay like a monthly fee or anything. You buy a card machine and it's yours. The moment that people stop transacting, our business is basically gone. So what we saw in our numbers was that 95% of turnover was just gone from one day to the next. And we needed a tool to see what was going on. And so we created the Small Business Turnover Index, and basically from day to day, you can see what is happening. And, you know, you can see like per, oh, I don't know why it's disappearing now. You can see per yes, there we go. Per province, what's going on. You can see, you know, what's going on with the impact in the different provinces compared to, you know, how the different stages are that we're going through, but also seeing like, you know, how are different industries doing. So just back to that number that I just mentioned, like we saw our, you know, transaction volumes dip with 95% from one day to the next. And so we had to respond. And so, you know, there was a moment where we had to go through, you know, what can we do with what we have, and create something new that still helps our customers so that we can stay afloat, but we also help our customers stay afloat. And that was where we went into the sort of digital payments really strongly. And I think within the first 3 weeks, we drank a lot of coffee and had a lot of stress, but managed to push out something that started to help people. But also, as we were pivoting, we were seeing our businesses, our small businesses, pivot. And it was so inspiring to see. Obviously, there was a lot of businesses that didn't manage to do that, but we saw a lot of examples that did manage to do that. And so it just became these sort of like inspiring, you know, reinventions that we saw people go through. And we were like, you know, this is actually very similar to what these large businesses are doing, where they're like, you know, what's happening on the ground? What are people doing? How are people changing the way they're doing things? Where are the new opportunities in there? And how can we leverage some of those opportunities with, you know, our assets and the things that we've got set up, like whether it's a technical platform or a production line or, you know, whatever that is, to respond to those new needs. And so what we did, and I actually want to show you some of those. This is our 95% dip there. I'll go past that very quickly because there's some trauma. So these are some examples, and I'm going to share this link. I think it's super cool. There was some guys that did elephant snacks, basically. They sold to tourists to give vegetables to the elephants in Plet. But then obviously no tourists, so no snacks needed, so poor elephants. But they still had to make money, so they changed it into Plet Produce, basically a vegetable grocery online shop. And they started delivering these packages, and that kind of like helped them through the first months of the pandemic. Another example, designer that went from bags to face masks. We've got an artist who went from these big galleries and long projects and all of that. Nobody's going to the gallery anymore. Everybody's watching their money, to looking for this, to finding this sort of new need where everybody's staying at home, likes to have nice things still, but you can't go out for fancy dinners. You can't go to theater. You know, the big paintings are expensive. So she started making small daily paintings and started selling those, and created a whole new market for herself. Another one, Arabella Parkinson, she used to be a private chef. Then she started doing virtual pantry guided cooking classes, being able to, you know, create great things with whatever's in your pantry. And then the last one, you know, Adam and Joshua from Granadilla, they used to sell swim shorts. So they had an online brand, they had a sort of delivery system. And they basically said, like, well, nobody's buying swim shorts now. We're not even allowed to go to the beach, but everybody's looking for a healthy food. So they worked together with local farmers to put packages together and started Granadilla Eats, completely different market, but responded with what they had, partnering with people who had the other pieces to build something new that was going to work, and that was helping the customers, finding new customers, and being able to respond with what was currently going on. So this inspired me to build this small business pivot guide, taking those examples, thinking about what we did before or what I did before with the large businesses. And it's basically very, very much the same. So you can find it on our website. You can download it here, and I'll just quickly show you what it is and what it looks like. And I hope that everyone can well see this. So it's basically a 5-step plan where you go through these steps, and I've created some really simple guidelines and templates to go through the steps. And it starts with obviously identifying new opportunities. And like I mentioned with these examples as well, it's about exploring your own strengths, as in, what do I have? What assets do I have? What connections do I have? Things like your brand, but also physical stuff like, I've got a kitchen with all the things I need to make food, or whatever you have, like mapping that out, and seeing that as the building blocks that you can use, and then letting that be for a second, going to looking at new behaviors and needs, which means that you need to go and talk to people. So that's the research, very similar to what we did, like going into the field, but it can be much simpler. So we've seen people asking questions over their Instagram, talking to friends and family, going out, talking to their customers, whatever you kind of need to build a picture of what's going on and where potentially new opportunities are in the market for you. And then you kind of bring those together into a brainstorm. So those are the first 3 steps. And I've kind of like laid out how you can use these canvases that I made. And, they're relatively simple. It's about, what do I have from a spaces and things point of view? Do I have a warehouse? Do I have a land mower? Do I have, that kind of stuff? Knowledge and skills, if you're a branding expert or if you're a logistics expert, those are also things that you can use. Brand marketing. Do I have already a brand that everybody knows? Like Granadilla was a quite well-known brand, and they had an Instagram with a huge amount of followers. And then, anything else when it comes to connection or whatever. And then when it comes to new behaviors and needs, I've tried to create a relatively simple way to get to, synthesizing things. So writing up changes as to what's happened, what's different in people's lives. Like, everybody starts to work from home. What does that mean? That means that I'm having my breakfast and my lunch and my coffee, etc. at home. So what are new needs? Well, how do I get that? And how do I get the stuff that I like from, actually being in town and, getting the nice Rosetta beans and, whatever. How do I get that kind of stuff in my house? And are these new customers or are these your current customers? And mapping all of those things out will help you kind of like see where these things start to map, right? And it's all about building the inspiration you need to then do the brainstorming. And I've just given some instructions on how you can sort of roughly do that. Then the second thing is, once you've got an idea, it's really about reinventing your business. So developing that new value proposition, going from an idea to, working it out as to what does it actually look like and what do you need for it? And then designing your business model as in, how do I make money from this? And again, like mapping it out helps, putting it down on paper, or if you've got a whiteboard, it helps really, seeing what you're doing and what you're trying to do and communicate it with others as well. I would also definitely recommend not doing any of these things alone, but getting people involved, because multiple brains help with, and also some of the things like you might not realize that it is a strength of yours, but someone like a family member or someone that you've worked with can help you, point out those things that you've got that you can bring. So again, like there's a template that helps you get from, customer segment to value proposition. And then when it comes to the business model canvas, these are actually quite known tools. I've just tried to simplify it a little bit for everyone to be able to use it. And also I think small businesses, I don't want to give you too much homework because you are busy enough. But have a look at it, see if it's useful for you. I'm not saying you have to follow every single step, but I think it's this is basically what all these small businesses have been doing and what large businesses are doing, figuring out, how to get from all the stuff that's happening to sort of step-by-step process of reinventing your business. So that's really what I wanted to do with this, is like kind of bringing it down and sort of taking people, or letting this thing take people a little bit by the hand through those steps. I know I'm kind of running out of time, or running over time already. The last thing I just really wanted to do is share with you guys something. We've had our own sort of buy local thing, which we called now it's Shop the Streets. We call it Shop the Streets, which we did not last year, but the year before. But I think one of the things that's different at Yoco, and I haven't given you too much information on what I do at Yoco, but I think what's different at Yoco is that we spend a lot of time with our customers, and we try and really connect with what they're trying to do, and make sure that we are meeting people where they are, rather than expecting people to change the way that they do things to be able to use our product. So, and I think recently we launched the Yoco Neo, and I think the ad is a really great example of how we do this and how we try and connect with people. Is it okay if I quickly play this? I thought it was a fun one.
Running a business just got a whole lot more complicated. About the only thing you can rely on is the lights going out. Luckily, there's something that is simple. It's a card machine. Not that one. This one. It works like the one you'd get from a bank. But Yoco made it, so it looks like this. And getting it set up is as easy as that. It's contactless and paperless. With a powerful battery and fast mobile connection. It even works in the dark. No cables, no smartphone, no strings attached. And all of this for one low transaction rate. That drops the more you sell. Say goodbye to complicated. The Yoco Neo, the future of getting paid.
Awesome. I hope you all enjoyed that. I'm going to share all the links of the stuff that I just walked through. I'm happy. Is it okay if I throw them into the chat?
Yes, with the greatest of pleasure. That's most welcome. Shoot, thank you so much, Evelyn. Much appreciated. I must say that I'm a little relieved that I wasn't in too much trouble when I misspelled your surname.
Everybody does.
Everybody.
No, that's totally okay.
Not that it makes it right, I had to acknowledge the fact that I think I butchered it so bad.
It's totally
yeah. So thank you so much. That was so insightful. And so I liked I mean, there's quite a lot that I took out from your presentation, and I'm hoping that even our audience did the same thing. The impact that COVID-19 has had on small businesses and entrepreneurship can never be underplayed. It's a big deal. And for us at Proudly South African, we're very vocal, and we have a very strong view about the fact that entrepreneurship and small businesses has to work. Entrepreneurship has to work because corporate South Africa is not going to absorb everybody into their system. So in light of that, entrepreneurship has to work. And I found that, a big part of your presentation also speaks to that. I quite like your small business turnover index. That's so critical, so practical. It really just unpacks it for businesses. So, in a way in which we can all understand without complicating this whole jigsaw puzzle. As it is, life and business is so complicated already, and it's these types of interventions that you've shared with us today that makes it a little bit more more easy, so to speak. And I see that you have shared the link already. You know, you're that lady. Oh, the links are there already. So thank you so much for that. And I just wanted also to comment that you are saying, you know, one of the things that I also took out from that is that you are saying it's okay for businesses to repurpose their operation when there's a need. Hey, Evelyn, is that what you're saying? It's okay.
No, absolutely. I think, you know, look, I've seen, you know, this is the funny thing. So as you're working with a lot of larger businesses, we use all these fancy names like pivoting, or, you know, I can't come up with one now. But it's like, so one of the things that we also talk about a lot is agile, you know, and those kind of things. Small businesses are constantly doing that. And I think there is this sort of misunderstanding how complex it is to run a small business, and that you're basically everything. You're the CEO, you're the head of marketing, you're the hairdresser, you know, you're doing all these different roles. So if there's anything that we can do when it comes to, you know, taking money or, you know, getting paid for what you're doing and making that more simple so you don't have to worry about it, then, you know, that takes away, you have to be less of a head of finance and you can focus a little bit more on some of the other stuff. Then we've done a good job. Yeah.
I couldn't have said it any better, that when you run a business, you are everything. You know, everything to make it work. I like the Shop to Streets campaign. You said that it's Yoko's own buy local effort. It's very commendable. I like that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll let my colleagues know. I was the brand team.
Please do. And I also thought that your commercial was pretty cool. It does say in the commercial that running a business is pretty complicated nowadays. Who would have thought that just wanting to go out on a romantic dinner, you know, then the minute you sit down, somebody comes with a thermometer, you know, temperature, gun to try and figure out if you are sick or not, and the person who, you could be a doctor, by the way, going out for a romantic dinner, and a security guard, you know, checks you out to see if you are good to go in or not. So we have to find some humor in all of this. It's a mess. It's a who would have thought? Who would have thought?
I thought the little thing at the end where they're trying to romantically touch hands and the guy's like,
Don't do it.
That was really good.
Following distance, don't do it. But thank you so much. There is lovely comments on the chat box. Somebody says, you know, your presentation is amazing. Thank you so for that. And somebody else says, it's about time I join. So proudly South African. I've been putting it on hold. You know, and I couldn't agree with you more. Do the right thing for yourself. Join the movement. Join the buy local movement. I think it's Munduza, please do the right thing. And then somebody says, it's very interesting. I'm very happy to be here. I'm learning so much. We're glad that you're here. Thank you so much, Evelyn. We're hoping that you still, you know, stay with us for much longer in case somebody wants to talk to you directly when we do this. Thank you so much.
I also shared my LinkedIn. If someone wants to connect and chat there, then feel free to do so.
There we go. Thank you so much. Much appreciated. May I then now please invite Sean Rosenstein. Sean is the Vice Chairman for NACAM from the Western Cape region. Are you online, Sean? Yes, Sean is here. You're welcome. We look forward to hearing from you. Please go ahead. Thank you.
I believe that Ronnie just needs to swap with me, if that's okay. So I'm going to jump off and let Ronnie jump on quickly.
That's perfectly okay. No problem. Thank you, Sean.
Thanks.
Welcome, Ronnie.
Thanks, Sean, for accommodating me. I really appreciate it, man. Evelyn, great presentation. I really love your product, and I've been exposed to it often at food markets, and it's I think it's an amazing product. So great presentation. Thanks for that.
Thank you, Ronnie.
Do you want to?
Absolutely. I think, again, before we probably dive into our portion of the chat, I just wanted to bring in the pieces that are so relevant and really have teed off our conversation, which was first and foremost what Eustace actually mentioned, being that although we were actually faced with a pandemic, right, it was not an option for most businesses to actually close their doors. And I think when the heavy lockdown, the initial heavy lockdown actually hit us all, that was the same conversation that at Ocasio we were actually having, that closing our doors is just not an option. Shutting down 2 manufacturing plants, one in Cape Town and one in PE, is just not an option. And not just strategically, but from a social imperative perspective, so many jobs would have been lost if this company was not able to innovate, be agile, and actually pivot the business. And a lot of what Ronnie Kruger will then dive into, I think will speak a lot to what we as a business had to do. And we were enabled because we are a local manufacturer. And because of the capacity that we actually have, a long-standing manufacturing and our capability in doing so, when the CSIR actually came to us and said, we need a manufacturer that can assemble a Cpap device, so continuous positive air pressure device, to alleviate the lack of ventilators that this company was, well, this country actually had, we were exactly the right people to actually heed that call and come into that space because we were a local manufacturer and we did have the capacity. And a lot of what Evelyn actually was going through in her guide is exactly, I think, the level of thinking that we had to go through as a company. We had to identify new opportunities. Lucky for us, one of those opportunities came knocking on our door, but we had to think about, do we have the space in our local factories? Do we have the capabilities? Do we have the skills? Do we have the relationships? Because some of the components that actually went into manufacturing and putting this device together could not be sourced in country, but who else do we know who is a manufacturer of another bolt or some other component that is needed? Who else can we actually call to? And how can we come together and collaborate? And I think it's beautiful in the sense that this device, this ventilator device that we were actually able to produce is completely and proudly South African, in the sense that from the designer who came up with the innovation, to Ocasio Medical who assembled, to all of the other companies that we actually spoke to who are home-based. And I think Ronnie will speak at large then about our involvement in the ventilator project by CSIR. We'll speak about how we also had to reinvent ourselves and step up from a PPE perspective and introduce a completely new category into our spaces that we weren't traditionally into, and other businesses that we've actually looked at, because it's also about thinking about what happens beyond COVID, right? So I guess it gives me great pleasure as well to introduce Mr. Ronnie Kruger, who will speak at large about all of this.
Thanks, Yolanda. One thing I've learned is never let a marketing person introduce you, because she's just about said everything I wanted to say. But anyway, let me give her a bash. So I think it's apt for me to tell you a little bit about Ocasio Medical and Healthcare Group. We're probably about 30 to 40 years old, being in various parts of the medical device industry. As Yolanda mentioned, we've got 2 factories, one in Cape Town, which is our medical, what we call our medical factory, where a lot of our devices are manufactured. And then we have a sutures plant in Port Elizabeth that has been around for about 40 years. We're the biggest manufacturer of sutures in the country and supply most of this, not all of the state hospitals, and including quite a large sector of the private sector and wholesale market. So We're in quite a diverse range of products. We employ around about 450 people countrywide, varying seasonally as well. We have a pool of scab labor that we bring in as and when needed. So anywhere between 400 and 500 people. In March last year, we were faced with a dilemma that many companies faced, in the sense that a lot of our products that we manufacture are used in the surgery space. A lot of the consumables that you get charged for when you get wheeled in for surgery, from cotton wool balls to swabs, to gauzes, to ventilators, to tubing, we manufacture locally. We realized that when they started closing down elective surgery, that we were going to be in trouble. The reality is that we lost about 30% of our market during that period. We were very lucky in the sense that a lot of the state hospitals still did surgery, but most of the private hospital groups actually closed down surgery, and it was only very selective surgery procedures that took place. We then decided as a company we had to become innovative. We had to diversify to some extent. The question was what? And of course, as you all know, the PPE, what shall I call it? Tsunami arrived, and everybody and its dog was now getting into PPE. We were very fortunate, and I think to a large extent, we've got to not discount the fact that you get lucky as well. But I think you do create your own luck, in the sense that we have done a lot of work in the last 2 years to become known as a very prominent local manufacturer of medical devices. So we were approached by the Solidarity Fund, excuse me, and in fact, we were the very first company to source and get an order from Solidarity during COVID. We supplied them with 4 million masks. We went through a massive process in terms of having those validated, tested, delivered. It was a good 3-month process. But what it did was it gave us the opportunity to now look and see about other opportunities. We then approached some of the factories that were making clothing for the likes of Edgar's, Truworths, Foschini, and so on. Approached them and asked them if they could manufacture PPE. We were able to source raw material locally in Durban. And we started partnering with 2 or 3 factories in producing PPE, which in fact we still do. In fact, it's now added on to the range of products that we sell out into the marketplace. That goes from anything from sterilized gowns to specialized gloves, masks, hoodies, booties, the full range. And something we had never ever considered as a product range in our stable. Why, I don't know, but it was never really on our radar because we were so busy with other things. We're now expanding into a lot of other products and looking at a lot of other products, things like uniforms, surgical gowns, surgical kit that they use, which we've never considered before. So it gave us an opportunity to look at other avenues. Yolanda mentioned the CSIR Cpap device. It's an absolutely wonderful product. I'll give you a very quick explanation of it, and I'm not an expert on the product, but essentially what it does is it's a in-between where the paramedics try and save your life and give you oxygen in the ambulance to going on a full ventilator in the hospital. This is an in-between product that, first of all, doesn't need power. It needs oxygen, but not power, because your air that you're bringing in actually gets the mechanism working. It has got a regulator on it, so you could regulate a little bit more. But essentially, it works like a windmill. The more wind it has, the more you breathe, the more the device works. Beauty about the product is it can be used in rural areas, into Africa. You can imagine the opportunities are endless. we supplied about 25,000 of those ventilators into the state hospitals. And in fact, the private sector bought quite a bit from us, not as much, nearly as much as the public sector did. And then, of course, gift of the givers, who are always involved in saving and do an amazing job worldwide, also bought a whole lot of products from CSIR. As Yolanda rightly mentioned, it was a wonderful opportunity for South Africans to get together and create a product. It is, in fact, the first medical device that is purely South African and was created by South Africans ever, I think. So designed by a 27-year-old engineer at CSIR, brought to us fairly quickly through the CSIR and DTI, and asked, can we manufacture this product and assemble? There were components that we couldn't produce because we didn't have the molds for them, but we knew of other molding companies that we use for a number of our devices. We approached them, partnered with them, and it became a whole supply chain program fairly quickly. Within 3 weeks, we were starting to produce devices, obviously because of the urgency and the need for it. It probably goes down as one of the most successful projects that I've ever been involved in my working career, and in such a quick space. So it shows what we can do as South Africans if we really stick together and decide we're going to, not for the benefit of one, but for the benefit of all. So all of us scored out of it. It was a great money spinner for us. It gave our factories additional capacity, which of course we needed because we were losing 30% of our surgical space that it now filled. And then, of course, the PPE side gave us other revenue streams, which we had never thought of. And subsequently, we've had approaches worldwide from a number of companies to represent them as agents in South Africa. It's given us amazing exposure. I've had interviews with Chinese television companies, which if I'd known that it was 4 billion viewers before, I probably wouldn't have spoken as well or as competently as I did, I hope. But the coverage that we've had out of it, selfishly, has been very good for us. So was COVID good for us? Not really. Was it an opportunity to look at other opportunities for us and new business opportunities? Very much so. We would never have had the opportunity because you get too busy to do these things. So were we in the right space to take on the new opportunity? Yes, because we had been building this company up for 2 years for exactly that, in terms of being able to take on new business. 2 years ago, we would not been able to do that. We weren't ready for that type of attempt. But being a different space now, it's been really good for us. It's given us a lot of media coverage. We're very proud of the products that we produce. We're very quality controlled. Quality orientated, I apologize. We also, for what it's worth, a little bit of brag rights, we are BE level 2, we're black owned, we ISO accredited, and we are also very, very proudly South Africa. So that in a nutshell has been the opportunities for us. We will continue to now seek other opportunities because it's now given us vision. And we continue to go through those steps of what's next. The other thing I did, in fact, just yesterday, we revised our strat plan, which we put together in October last year. You'll be amazed at how much had actually been achieved and a lot that we've actually replaced with new strategic initiatives that we believe is right for the market now. And lastly, I can say that it's going to be a wonderful day, the day that our South African hospital groups, companies in South Africa actually do support local. A lot of it is, a lot of the companies say they do and want to and like the fact that you're local. But I think that as local companies, we need to push that quite heavily to make sure that we are actually growing the employment rate in our country. We are proud to say that we have not had to retrench in this last 18 months. Thankfully, we're blessed that we didn't have to do that. And in fact, we were the only company in the medical industry last year that actually gave an increase. So we're very proud of what we've achieved, but it's been thanks to other companies that have approached us, Solidarity, the Clinton Foundation, government. So we can't discount the fact that we were approached and gave us opportunities, but we also had opened ourselves to receive those opportunities. Thank you for listening to me. I don't know if there's anything I've missed, Yolanda.
Maybe if I may just add on or enhance, and again, it's just to support something that Evelyn had also mentioned, that a business should not be afraid to reinvent itself. And that in itself is exactly what Ocasio Medical did. And it's something that I guess we would advise that any other company, irrespective of how small or how large, should definitely think about doing, because we would not have been able to do any of the things that we did do if we were actually afraid to reinvent ourselves. And it became very evident as well that we needed another platform to push the narrative, and hence the partnership with Proudly South African. We realized that while we sat and thought, oh, well, you know, we want to be stewards of being proud and being local. But right on our doorstep, we have Proudly South African that actually pushes the very same narrative. Why not jump on board and collaborate and partner with organizations that are just as committed into driving the same narratives? And we are proud to be Proudly South African. And while we were sitting here and going through Evelyn's presentation, there were so many other small companies we were actually thinking about telling, you know, to join Proudly South African, because it's been a good vehicle for us to push the narrative even further. We know that we can explore so many other opportunities. But I think the most important thing is we can get to more patients. Especially in the business that we are in. We want to save lives, right? So we want to take up every opportunity to make sure that we are doing absolutely that. And I think that's all from our side.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Team Ocasio. And, you know, I think your best you've done it. There is no doubt that in the last 12 months or so, you've done amazing work. But I just want to throw it in there that I think the best move you made during that period, or at least quite recently, is to join the Buy Local movement. You know, and to associate yourself with a credible campaign such as ours. So we are very delighted to have you on board. And so Ronnie, you said that the repurposing your business has given you as a company great media coverage and great exposure. And I am saying to you, you ain't seen nothing yet. Now,
thank you, Happy.
You ain't seen nothing yet now that you are associated with Proudly South African. But let me tell you guys, I mean, your ventilator program is everything. It really is such a commendable work under these very difficult circumstances, which just then goes to show that even in the midst of uncertainty, in the midst of trouble, in the midst of not knowing what move to make the next, because I think we all know that nothing could have prepared us, you know, for the pandemic. I mean, you know, when we had the first family meeting with the president and he said that we're going on lockdown, we all thought, you know, we all need some time out for about a month or two. So what's the worst that could have happened? Little did we know that we had, you know, another thing coming. But look what has happened in terms of your business, and really the work that you've done in the last 12 months is amazing. And you are on our portal now, aren't you, with all your fantastic product, Yolanda?
I think the work, it's all in progress. I have been advised that there are some developments and updates that are being made from the e-commerce perspective to ensure once again that we are on the portal and that every consumer from all walks of life can then have access to our products. And we also in our own space have been trying to develop an e-commerce platform, which we are hoping to launch with quite soon. But as the conversations, in fact, a lot of what has ensued in this very conversations has left me jotting down quite a bit. So I know that after this, I'm contacting Evelyn, because I have a thing or two that we need to chat about as well, just in line with how she has been able to reshape her business offering. But we do hope to be on the portals and the RSA made store quite soon.
Fantastic. And there we go again, just a demonstration of the B2B transaction. You are now having a plan or thinking of contacting Evelyn, which is fantastic. This is exactly what we are hoping to achieve with all of this. Not only the audience that is online to take out something from these discussions, but also speakers in different businesses that are presenting here today to see opportunities amongst themselves. And I just want to take from your wealth of knowledge, Ronnie, in closing your session, is that you zoomed into the localization space. And I just want to say that, you know, localization in our view and entrepreneurship is really going to turn our fortunes as a country going forward. We cannot even begin to ignore the power that we have, you know, in our localization space as a country, you know, which is going to contribute immensely to the economy of the country. And that's what we all want to see happen. You've got quite a nice comments as well from the audience, team Ocasio, where they say amazing story from Ronnie and Yolanda, amazing, you know, amazing work. Keep up the good work. Thank you so much, colleagues. We appreciate you getting up, showing up, and getting up, rather, dressing up and showing up. And Ronnie, I'm just going to put a spanner in the works. I'm hoping that a beautiful painting behind you is local, is all I'm saying.
It's actually a painting I recently got in Zanzibar, so kind of local.
Yeah, no, it's, you know, it's from Africa. And in celebration of Africa Day, just the other day, it is appropriate. Thank you so much.
And thank you for accommodating me, Sean. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Sean. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, colleagues. So with that said, Sean, are you online? You are here. Sean is our last speaker, but certainly not least. And Sean is from NACAM. Thank you so much for accommodating the request to swap the slots around. We really appreciate it. Please go ahead. We're looking forward to hearing from you.
Thanks, Happy. And good morning to everyone. And thank you for having me on this discussion. It's a great pleasure to be here. I think the purpose of today, from my perspective, is to really share some of the experiences and, more importantly, the learnings that CGI went through during 2020, and really how we were able to pivot our business operations, again, from a very established core product or core offering to something completely different. So I'm going to just call up a quick presentation. It shouldn't take too long. And hopefully give you a better insight into what we did in 2020. So, excuse me, pivoting design, product, and repurposing assets to create new income streams. So let me just start at the beginning as to who CGI are. CGI, Creative Graphics International. We're definitely not in the medical space. We are an international organization. I'm based in Ottery in Cape Town, and our head office is in Bedford in the UK. We're a fairly small organization, about 250 employees, but a very well-established client base covering about 25 countries globally. And what do we do? Well, we're a first-tier OEM supplier to the automotive industry. So just an example of some of the customers that we supply: Ford, Toyota, VW. In fact, besides Mercedes-Benz and BMW, we supply all the local manufacturing OEMs in South Africa. And obviously underpinning this business are our certifications. And I think Ronnie mentioned the ISO certification. For us to play in the automotive space, we've got some very, very stringent system requirements and certifications we need. So we've got a whole bank of things covering health and safety, environment, and obviously quality, which certainly helped during this pivot process. And one of our more proud and recent achievements is our SANS 1404, which I'll talk about shortly, allowing us to produce a qualified and certified face shield. Our export market from Cape Town, South Africa, a lot of people always struggle to understand this, but from our little operation in Cape Town, South Africa, we're able to export to Australia. We've got clients in Australia, clients in India, Thailand, the GCC, Saudi Arabia, Oman, Dubai, Kuwait, Egypt, Sudan, Kenya, Morocco. We supply into a big chunk of the European space, into North and South America. And these are our current clients in our automotive space. We've got some really wonderful affiliations in the South African market. I'm obviously, as you read, the vice chair for NARCAM in the Western Cape, and they were pivotal in supporting us during our pivoting process last year. And being a printing business, we obviously aligned to some of the local and international organizations, but we are essentially a printing business. And there are lots of printing businesses in South Africa, but we're one of a handful globally who manufacture for the automotive and similar space. So we produce products. The most common one you would see over there is the quantum taxi for the automotive sector. When you see the taxis driving around in South Africa with the flag on the side and the speed sticker on the back, we are the guys that manufacture those. We do aerospace branding. So the latest would be Lift Airlines. It's just launched in South Africa. We did the branding for Lift Airlines. We do Virgin Atlantic. We've done work for Emirates Airlines. And then in some of the sort of similar spaces from a branding point of view, the yellow goods, what they call the yellow metal, green metal sector, recreational vehicle market, mainly in Europe, caravans and motorhomes, and then marine as well, being that very nice speedboat at the bottom. Again, we've got very stringent specifications we need to meet. We have a laboratory. We do all our own product testing and validation, and a number of awards and certifications as well. So out of Cape Town, South Africa, we produce all the, what they call the appearance decals, the labels, the badging, which you see on a number of vehicles in South Africa. Typically, you'd find it on the Ranger, the Raptor, the Hilux, the Corolla, the Fortuner, the Isuzu pickup, the Isuzu trucks, etc., etc. So all the branding components, both on the outside and the inside of those vehicles, we manufacture here in South Africa. And some nice examples there of the products we produce, both for the local and the export market. But let me get into the actual pivoting story and explain to you what happened last year. So we created a Survivor timeline. And on the 26th of March, midnight last year, the handbrake was pulled up, our customers went to sleep, our suppliers went to sleep, and we stopped working. It was obviously quite a challenging period for the entire automotive space. We've got about 150 employees in our operation in Cape Town, and we all went home on the 26th in the afternoon, not actually knowing when we were going to be coming back to work. We had a customer request out of the blue. One of our customers said to us, "Can you produce face shields?" So we are a manufacturer of branding components, decals, badging for the automotive space, but we're never going to say no. So what did we do? We considered our current capability. We're a printing business. We do some cutting. We do some assembly work. So how could we take these types of activities and help our customer produce the face shield that they wanted? So on the Saturday morning, I think lockdown was on the Thursday. Friday, the country was completely offline. Myself and my two colleagues came into the plant on Saturday, and we started the process of R&D. And what we did was we made up a prototype face shield. Again, looking at the facilities we've got, the repurposing of our assets, how could we use our assets differently? We knew that we could redeploy and use our staff because they are skilled staff. And at the same time, we started a marketing campaign. So on the Saturday, we immediately created a brand called Survisor. And in parallel, we started the marketing process, the R&D process. And on Monday morning, lo and behold, we were able to get our staff back with all the necessary permits and started manufacturing Survisor face shields. So it was quite a quantum shift, moving from our core offering into the automotive space into something completely different, with no real experience, except a passion and a incredible enthusiasm to support our customers on this extremely important cause. And then finally was obviously our ability to support our customer. And we were able to push through an order from start to finish within 6 days. And SPAR became one of our big customers for face shields over the lockdown period and beyond. So just to run through some of the key things here, staff support was obviously immense. Our staff were hugely excited to get back to work on the Monday. So the levels of enthusiasm and support were phenomenal. We initiated specific training, but because we had our baseline quality systems in place, which we use on a day-to-day basis, our staff automatically slotted in and understood where we needed to be. From a localization point of view, which is a very key driver in the automotive space, we realized that we needed to source 100% local content, the face shield material, the headband, the foam piece, the elastic. We worked very closely with our suppliers to source locally manufactured components for this face shield. And I think one of the real fantastic points was being able to bring back our suppliers, our second and third tier suppliers who are now dormant and had also closed their doors. We were able to bring them back into a working mode during lockdown, because a lot of them were very much focused on the automotive space. But as an example, some of our cutting dies we used to cut our face shields. So our die maker who was supplying our cutting dies, we got him back online and obviously created a revenue stream for him as well. Another example, our elastic bands that we use on the back of the face shields, that came out of the clothing space, not dissimilar to what Ronnie was saying earlier. So we were sort of working with other sectors to source locally available raw materials. The marketing side, and I'll get onto that shortly, again, like Ronnie said, we really leveraged the opportunity to push the good news stories. There were a lot of bad news stories going through at the time, but I think for us, it was a great opportunity. We worked with EWN, we were on the radio, we were on the television, and we got a tremendous amount of free marketing and advertising, which in normal times we wouldn't consider because of the extensive cost to it. But we actually got some airtime, like I say, on the radio, on the televisions, etc. Pushed very, very hard in the social media space, Facebook, LinkedIn. We created a website, and we went through numbers of interviews in the sort of online space. Both myself and my colleagues contributed to this marketing campaign. But for being a business that typically was in the background and kept a very low profile in terms of marketing, this was a quantum shift for us in terms of getting our name into the spotlight. And I think that's one of the key takeaways for us is we've got a very, very strong push now, particularly on LinkedIn, where we do a lot of business promotion, product promotion, development that we're doing as CGI. So this for us was a particularly key learning. In terms of new customers, again, you know, I showed you the customers before. Never did I think we would ever be dealing with the hospitals, Mediclinic, Intercare. what would our relationship be with the police services, telecom. These all became new clients for us, and some continue to be as well. But very, very interesting that within the space of a month, being April, we generated a whole new set of clientele to support during this time, both in terms of medical and retail outlets as well, who needed to comply to the new PPE rules. And there's our Minister of Police with one of our face shields on. We were obviously supplying it into the medical space. And I think from a social responsibility point of view, it was phenomenal. There's not a huge amount of social responsibility putting a taxi flag on a quantum taxi, but when you're protecting people's lives in the hospital, it's absolutely a fantastic feeling to be able to do that. We then sort of moved into social distancing, visual management tools, which I think most of us see in our day-to-day environment, whether it's by the ATMs or in restaurants or cinemas. We started developing respirator filter covers, so we had a request for that. So not only from face shields, we moved to other products as well, and we were able to localize it on the current assets we had. So we looked at the machinery and said, what else can we be doing? And we kept asking that question, what else can we be doing? How can we change our processes? We had a big request from the old age homes. Moving from room to room, they needed to keep changing their hospital gowns. The entire supply chain, import supply chain had fallen over. There was a lack of hospital gowns, and we repurposed packaging material and created hospital gowns. And we ended up selling a couple of thousand hospital gowns, particularly into the old age homes to make sure that the staff, the frontline staff were protected and protected the aged as well. And then we moved into sort of the more technical side, trolley disinfecting booths. This is a project we did for SPA. So a huge shift from manufacturing into the automotive space to becoming a thinking, developing, pivoting supplier into the medical space during that time. Customer services and customer social responsibility programs. We donated to orphanages and deaf schools, and it was just absolutely phenomenal to be able to support from that perspective. On the highway, we would stop and give the police and similar personnel at the checkpoints a whole bag of face shields for them to use. And then likewise internally, we obviously supplied our staff with the necessary homemade, locally produced, locally sourced face shields, and obviously we had all our branding in place there as well. So really just some key takeaways. I think the key thing for us is a very famous statement by Jack Trout, who said, it's better to be first than to be better. And our speed of response, i.e. the way we got out of the starting blocks quickly, allowed us to really leverage and take advantage in literally the first 24, 48 hours of the lockdown. And then we changed as we went along. We made the improvements we needed to do, but don't lose the advantage of being first. If your solution's not 110% qualified, get it out there and then make changes on the fly. So that was important for us. Obviously, from a business perspective, protection and forecasting of cash flow. Although the group business was quiet both here in the UK, weekly management meetings, making sure that we're monitoring our cash flow. Our cash to cash cycle had changed. So typically we follow a long cash to cash cycle. This then changed to a short cash to cash cycle. We were able to negotiate with our core suppliers to manage costs there. As I've mentioned before, our online presence was something new, but a huge focus for us. A new website, articles, we put QR codes onto our labels, and we really leveraged off the media to promote our new our offering. From an existing support system, so we had these existing systems, like I mentioned before, our ISO systems, which made a huge difference in supporting the manufacturing of our products. What resources do we have from both a people, technical, and asset perspective to provide an advantage? And that's really a question we can ask ourselves. What do we currently have that we can change and modify to create something new. I think one of the key things is exceptional customer service. So whether it's existing customers or, as I've shown you before, new customers, what was front and foremost in our minds was making sure we needed to provide exceptional service, which we did from our side. Continual planning ahead. So there was the now, managing the requirements for April, May, June, but also how would we reintegrate back to normal situation with our OEM customers, which luckily enough sort of kicked off in early May. But that was always a key focus area. And again, agility and flex of our staff during these times. So our staff were hugely committed and absolutely thrilled to be back at work, and were able to adapt to the new product and new conditions. And there was regular communication, regular updates, shop floor discussions, always letting them know what's happening with the new customers. And it was an absolutely phenomenal, exciting time for all the staff to see how they were contributing during this time where PPE was in a great need. Again, just the effective communication, hugely important, especially if you have a fairly significant staff content, is to make sure you're communicating and keeping them up to date and up to speed. So moving forward, again, we don't say no anymore. We avoid tunnel vision. We were very much an automotive-centric type of business. Now we will do anything. So diversification. It's certainly shown and taught us that we have got the ability and the mettle to be able to diversify. We always consider our people, our processes, our assets, and we're always asking, not dissimilar to what Ronnie was saying, what else can we do? And just an example of some of the non-core projects that we've gone through over the last couple of months as well, in terms of a new angle, a new trajectory, which we focus on again to diversify our business. So with that, I'd like to say good luck to all of you. My details are available, and I think the presentation or my details will be shared. You are welcome to contact me. I think just in closing, I'd like to just personally thank NARCAM, and in particular Shivani Singh, who was hugely instrumental in driving the localization of face shields. She was hugely supportive to us as well. And from 0 face shields, we ended up producing around 350,000 face shields over that time. And again, as we sit here now, we still continue to manufacture face shields as well. So it certainly supported our business from that perspective. And then lastly, just to thank Proudly South African for inviting me to this forum. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Oh, okay. Thank you so much, Sean. Thank you. I feel like, as I'm listening to you, I feel like I've been schooled, properly schooled, on all sorts of opportunities, on all sorts of possibilities, but most importantly, on your thought process as a business person. That it could have gone either way, you know what I mean? It could go pear-shaped very quickly, but it doesn't have to. And I think it's the same type of feel and message that I got from all the speakers. Ronnie alluded to that, so did Yolanda, and Evelyn, Eustace did as well. And but it just also highlights the fact that nobody ever said it was going to be easy for any business. Nobody can anticipate what's going to happen tomorrow, but the reality is, if and when something happens, what then? So thank you so much, Sean. Your presentation is so well received. And also what I might take out as well from the many things, amazing work that you've shared with us, is that you say that speed of response in any business is everything. Okay? It really is everything, because that determines the future of the business. Whether you want to respond today or you want to respond in 4 days' time is entirely up to you, but that then determines, what's going to come out of the future of your business. And it's also amazing to see how many clients you were able to attract. I mean, it just feels like they all dropped from a tree from somewhere, which is fantastic, because then your product, they could resonate with your product. They could relate to it, and you know, which is a good thing. And hence you ended up, you didn't end up with all those clients because they thought your products were cute. It was about a need, correct? You know.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm glad to see that you are also a supplier of the quantum taxis. I think it is. Is it that the brand says Figile?
Says Figile, that's correct.
There we go. And I'm particularly excited about this because we are right in the middle of a campaign that we are shooting. In fact, when I get off this call, I have to run to the shoot, where it's a campaign called Living Lekker Locally. And we're using two of Toyota's cars, which is the Quantum Sesfigile as well as the Quantum Corolla Quest. And the long and short of it, a quick story, is that we found a very simple way for South Africans to resonate with, you know, with our narrative when we say local is like, and everybody can live local and everybody can contribute to the economy of the country. And so we're showcasing somebody getting off a bed that is made locally. The linen is made by Mr. Price, it's local. You get into your bathroom, you use skincare products that are made locally. You get, you know, you look for something to wear from your wardrobe and shoes, it's local. You go to your kitchen to prepare breakfast, all the ingredients are local. The fridge is made by Hisense, the microwave is made by DeFi South Africa, the stove is DeFi South Africa. You then get into a car to go to work. And in the documentary, we're showcasing Toyota Corolla, but we understand that not all South Africans are able to buy their own car. Then what happens to that massive, consumer? What happens to the other consumers? They get into a taxi. Into the Sesfigile taxi to get to work. People go to work, they use the smartphones that are made locally, laptops and all of that. Fast forward, go back home, prepare dinner, all the products you use are local until you go back to bed and you switch on your security system that's national security. So, we're telling a beautiful, proudly South African story by consuming local products. So I got excited when you spoke about Toyota amongst many other things. And yes, a big thank you to Shivani. Shivani is, I call her the fixer. Met her 3 years ago, started talking the localization, work with her, and fast forward to 3 years later, here you are, you're mentioning her. I'm hoping she's online. If she isn't, please send her the warmest regards. She is a doer. She really is. Thank you so much, Sean, and thank you for accommodating that swap. We really, really appreciate it. Just so you know, there's many beautiful messages for you from the chat box, where people are just saying that your story is really just amazing to hear and very, very inspirational. Thank you for taking time to join us. And before I thank all the speakers, please hang on for the next 2 minutes. Thank you so much. And to everybody who's on the line with us, the take from this, from all speakers for me, is really the reality around it is possible to repurpose your business. It really is possible to pivot and keep your eye on the prize. And keeping your eye on the prize means, repurposing, working twice as hard, being able to identify opportunities and running with them to avoid shutting down your business, to avoid retrenching and all of that. It's not easy. We appreciate that and we acknowledge that, because that is a reality. But, the long and short of it is that it is possible. It's all in your hands. It really is all in your hands. You can associate yourself with a campaign such as ours that seeks to open doors, and it seeks to, make available to you these type of sessions, and seeks to make available to you access to market opportunities, because we believe that it is pointless, completely pointless, if you run a business and nobody buys from you. And this whole session is testament to that we all need customers. to be able to make it in our business. Just so you know that we've been streaming live on Facebook as well, and obviously on Zoom. Evelyn, Yoko has got amazing comments on Facebook. They say for me, and this for me is very important, they say that you understand, Yoko understands the needs of small businesses. That's a big deal. That is a big deal when small businesses believe that there's an entity out there or that really understands what they're trying to achieve.
That's amazing to hear.
Yeah, fantastic.
Because that's what we're trying to do. So that's really great. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I just wanted to just quickly have a quick look to see if there's any comment from the audience that I'm missing out on. I mean, there's quite a few, but I would really like to share some of them with the people. Some of the people agree with me when I say we have been schooled by everybody. Really, honestly, we have been schooled by everybody with this session. We take so much out of this session that we are hopefully going to be able to apply in our own, respective businesses going forward. Local is lekker, yes, Ronnie, by all means, local is lekker. As somebody saying that, thank you so much to Proudly South African for facilitating this. I mean, there's just so much, but I think what is important to know is that your presentations were very, very well received. PR, Proudly South African PR online and even back end. Is there anything that I'm missing? I think we're good to go to close off the session officially. Just to reiterate to our audiences that if you would like access to any of the presentations and that we shared today, we will facilitate that. There wasn't specifically a presentation from Ronnie and Yolanda. It was more like an interactive session, which was great. What we can do for you is that we'll give you Ronnie and Yolanda's address, we'll give you their ID number, we'll give you their home addresses, we'll give you everything. They can run, but they can't hide. But we can get information from them. Should there be a specific thing that you need from Ronnie and Yolanda, we're very happy to facilitate that behind the scenes. Celeste says very inspiring in this tough economic time and being challenged by Chinese products. It is tough, and it also just proves, Celeste, that local is truly lekker. We must just find it, and it is there. It is out there somewhere. It's accessible, it's affordable, and we have good quality products in South Africa. Don't let anybody tell you that we don't. We do have them. We have a very strong view about that, and we are here as Proudly South African to make it happen, to find them for you in the event that there's people who are struggling to get through to the products that they desperately need. With that said, may I just quickly thank all our speakers today. Thank you so much for joining us. Eustace Mashimbe, he is the CEO of Proudly South African, who had to step off the call earlier on. Thank you so much for your presentation, sir. Evelyn, Head of Customer Insights and Experience from Yoko, you'll see that I avoided reading out your surname because I'm playing it safe. I'm a very cautious girl. I want to play it safe. But Evelyn, thank you so much for your presentation. Sean, who is the MD CGI, which is Creative Graphics International. May I please ask the presenters to have the cameras on as I say thank you. Thank you so much, Sean. Much appreciated. And Ronnie Kruger, Group CEO, Ocasio Medical and Healthcare Group. Thank you so much. Ronnie may have stepped off, like he alluded earlier, but Yolanda is here. Thank you, Yolanda. Please pass our warmest gratitude to Ronnie. We truly appreciate it. Any closing comments from the speakers? You're most welcome. In no particular order, you can go for it.
I think just from my side, thank you once again. Thank you to Proudly South African for the opportunity. thank you for thinking of us. And we will always heed to the call. And as you had mentioned, we will drop our details as well on the chat, just in case someone is trying to get a hold of us. And I will be extrapolating all of the other panelists' details as well, so we can continue to collaborate and continue, I think, to just keep moving the mark and keep making a difference. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Sean?
Yeah, happy just to say thanks very much. It was a great privilege to be part of this discussion, and thanks to the other panelists. It was yeah, very, very interesting. So thanks again.
Thank you so much. Evelyn?
Yeah, no, this was great. It was really lovely to meet the other panelists and hear those stories. Look, we went through a bit of a pivot last year, but I think, you know, if I'm talking about the pivot guide, it's really based on these kind of stories, right? It's such a great inspiration that we saw in lots of businesses last year, and it's really great to see, you know, to really hear some in-depth stories of how businesses have done that. I'm glad my pivot guide matches with the processes that they've gone through, and it's really, yeah, no, it's really great to see the success that they've come to. So congratulations on all the success, and thank you so much for having me, proudly South African.
Thank you so much, Evelyn. And last but not least, thank you so much to the attendees. I see we kept our numbers up, but we didn't drop many people, which is fantastic, because that proves that the discussion was critical. Thank you so much to everybody that attended. You chose to be with us this morning. You could have been anywhere, but you chose to be here. Thank you. And thank you to Team Proudly South African, working hard behind the scenes. Thank you, team. It was fantastic. Thank you, everybody. Have a great afternoon further. Thank you. Bye-bye.